honored to have with us today Canada's CEO Citizen of the Year, as named by Global Mail's Report on Business, Mohamad Fakih. Mohamad leads one of North America's fastest growing Middle Eastern food chains, Paramount Fine Foods. He also has an unwavering dedication as a community leader who advocates for diversity, inclusion, and supporting those in need. This mindset has led him to become one of the country's most respected philanthropists. In early 2020, he led the Canada Strong campaign to raise over $1 million for the families of the victims of the Iranian plane crash. During the Syrian refugee crisis, Mohamad traveled to the front lines there. He's hired over 150 refugees to work at Paramount and became the voice of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees Canada. And during the pandemic, even though he's in one of the hardest hit business industries in hospitality, he's donated tens of thousands of meals to those in need, including healthcare workers, school groups, and families through his Dare to Care program. He inspires audiences to implement strategies that result in successful teams and businesses while ultimately giving back to the community in effective and sustainable ways and creating lasting change. Please join me in welcoming Mohamad Fakih. Welcome, Mohamad.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the great introduction.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to our conversation today and understanding better how you are running your business, your thoughts on leadership, and some of what's going on in the country today. So we'll jump right into it.
For sure. Excited about this.
Oh, great. I thought it would be good to start with some of your background and your arrival in Canada. You came to Canada with so little and yet have been able to give so much. Can you share some of your story of where you've come from and how you've built your life and business here?
Yes, for sure. I lived in Lebanon. That's where I grew up. I was there during the Civil War. I've spent nights in the bunkers with my family. I've had a lot of really those dark nights. Many times I've been a refugee myself. My family used to pick us all up and leave Beirut to another city just to keep us safe. And I decided to leave and I went to Italy. I studied there gemology. So I'm a gemologist that sells shawarma, basically. I came to Canada with $1,000 in my pocket. I landed right here in Pearson Airport. I wasn't afraid to start at the bottom. I lived in a basement apartment, a shared basement apartment. And I had to work at a coffee shop. People will not give me a job in the jewelry business just because simply I didn't have the Canadian experience. But working at the coffee shop taught me a lot of good things and even taught me traditions like why Canadians always talk about the weather, even if the weather is not interesting. One day my wife sent me to buy a kilo of baklava. I walked to this bakery called Paramount. There wasn't anything Paramount about it. And the owner told me that they were struggling and he would shut down the business if I wouldn't help them. So this is when I decided to actually help him because I thought, I want to save those families. 16 families lived from that business and the staff, their visa dependent on the business to stay up and running. So I helped them and I ended up buying the business. From there, I turned around the sales from 40,000 a month to 60,000 a week in less than 6 months. I didn't know how to fry an egg, but I had to depend on the biggest asset every business has is my talents, the chefs, the people that they were there. And I hired consultant. I gave them the tool that were able to succeed. And then I got so excited about the sales when we got to 60,000 a week, I decided to open a second location. I went and I opened in Yonge and Steeles and it was a mess. Everything didn't work. My chefs were competing which hummus was better from one location than the other. And I really wanted them to be the same to be able to actually grow the company. And I started losing money there. And then I stepped back and I said, there's only one way to run. It's forward for me. It's either I'll just wrap up the company and close it, or I'll open a third location. That's where I took on the Young and Dundas. I had to really borrow money from some friend to finish the restaurant. And I opened, and it was a great business to open. From day one, we had $80,000 a week sales. And from there, I hired more consultants and I turned Paramount to mostly a system in place, but I kept putting always people first. And that's where everything is started. I went from one location in 2006 to 81 locations by now, operating in 7 different countries. And I'm very proud to see our name in the arena in Mississauga that used to be Hershey Center, now called Paramount Center. That's like, I did all this by selling the food that I love from a country that I love, where I came from, right? And that's how we did all this. And for me, I grew the company based on a culture where profit is a destination. I call it the 4 Ps: people, planet, and purpose. And that's how you get to profit. And I always believed in that because I grew up in a house where my parents, during even the worst time of the war, they help people. And for me, I always say my focus has always been the people. So when I walk in the street or in the restaurant, people will stop me and say, customer comes first. Customer always comes first, Mohamad. Make sure. And I look at them and I say, no, not for a CEO. The CEO, my team come first. And when I put my team first, then they will put the customer first. And I've always worked that way. For my manager, for everyone, I've been close to them. I go talk to them, have a conversation, mentor them, I break bread together with them. And they learned it from me, but mostly I've learned it from them because I don't come from the food industry. And I always say, the best way is when you support a community where you're doing a business, you're doing business. And I think Paramount is a proof when you invest in the community and you hire the people from that community, the community will come back and support you. And it'll become not only the right thing, it'll become even the profitable thing. And that's how I built Paramount.
That's an incredible story where I pick up on themes of your persistence certainly, and your contributions, and such incredible growth. And as you mentioned, a lot of it with the attention and priority of the people on your team, and some of the systems that you have in place. And I'd love to explore some of those themes a little bit more. Part of what you touched on, I've heard you encapsulate is a term, kinder capitalism. Can you expand on that a bit?
Well, and I think especially after the pandemic, but I've been doing it all along. I find it, people think that CEO only can get to profit by putting shareholder first and money first. And let's get to the bottom. Yeah, of course, it's very important, the bottom line. But for me, profit is a destination. How do you get there? And you can pick your company being a great training center for other companies, or the staff will start in your company and stay in your company. And there is a lot of study that shows, especially lately, that people will not stay in a company unless the company has something to make them feel like they belong to something much bigger than themselves, and just not only the salary. And I think purpose does that, and helping the community does that, and making them feel like they're very important and the most important for the staff, they will remain. And we all know, all CEOs know how costly it is to change our staff and replacing them. And we have people, like I'll give you an example, Teresa. When we fed and we put in hotels the homeless in downtown Toronto in 2017, in December 31st, I had people calling me from Tim Hortons wanting to join Paramount. I'll never forget that story where a trainer called me and said, I am the senior trainer at Tim Hortons. And my mom called me and said, you need to work for that company because they don't only give you money, but you leave something behind when you, and that's what I believe in. I think, we need and we can, as Canadians, especially all the CEOs, we could lead kinder capitalism around the world. Because when I look at the faces of the people, the Syrian refugee that we hired, and even the faces of the staff that trained them to incorporate them to the Paramount team, it made both sides life better. And it gave them so much loyalty to Paramount. And it made the Canadian staff that welcomed them from day one having a great story to tell their children. And we all do what we do to make our parents proud and our children look up to us. And it gives the staff a reason to make sure that their kids are looking up to what their parents has done. And that's how it works. And so I truly believe that we should be all kinder, and we should change the way people look at us CEO, because there is a lot of kind CEOs. And we could lead with a kind of capitalism around the world. We should actually add it as part of our P&L as well. Like it should be a part of our financial planning is how do we support the community? And we should not only do it because it's the profitable thing to do, but I can promise you, a lot of customers come back to Paramount more often than usual because they want to support a company that's good to their staff, good to the planet, and for sure, good to the community. I've heard it many, many times, and I've seen it on the bottom of receipts, and I've seen it in letters coming to our office saying, we have ordered and we will order more from Paramount because we want to support companies that support the community. And I think Canada could lead the world with the idea of kind of capitalism. We could be good, we could be smart, we could get to profit, but we can be kind as well.
I quite like that. Thank you. And speaking of investing in the community and being a part of the community, as well as different people that you've hired, you are an advocate for diversity in business. Can you elaborate on that?
No, of course. And I came to Canada with a heavy accent, and I want to keep it. I love my accent. It starts a lot of conversation with people. And I came here. My name is Mohamad. I'm Muslim. I have a heavy accent. And I'm telling people I'm a gemologist. 80% of the people didn't know what gemologist mean or what I do for a living. Not even my dad. He used to introduce me to people last because it was difficult for him that I'm not a lawyer or engineer or a doctor like my other brothers and sisters. So look, I came here with a heavy accent, named Mohamad, a Muslim, and people gave me an opportunity. Canadian with a smile every single day made me feel like a citizen more than an immigrant. And that gave me so much strength. And look, it's so amazing when you see that our streets looks like our boardrooms, but that's not the case today. And even companies, a lot of our companies today, and I'm not talking about my companies because I've been very careful since the beginning to make sure that my boardroom looks like the street of the city. And I hope that people really choose to be inclusive because inclusion is a choice that we make. Like diversity, we are all born diverse and we don't choose that. But inclusion is a choice. And every single person that is in the power of hiring has that choice. And it starts with who do we befriend? If I ask myself, do I befriend all Muslim or Arabs or Middle Eastern, or I choose a friend from all backgrounds? But most importantly as well, do we really cap our criteria of inclusion? Or we allow diverse people to get to the highest offices that it's available to them and should be available to them? And I don't understand why wouldn't we? I actually think that those diverse ideas that comes from all around the world will make us better, will make our companies better, and even will make the people that are working with the diverse people much better. And it'll show that our companies are accepting a new idea and they're welcoming a new idea. So definitely, I believe even our government offices should be looking like our street, and forever I'll be advocating for that. I mean, we need, if we were to continue playing the role we play around the world, and Canada isn't known for oil or money or army or weapons. Canada is known to be a great country and a welcoming country, and we need to protect that Canadian dream. A dream where a guy that landed in Pearson Airport with $1,000 in his pocket will be holding the highest order for a civilian right on his jacket. That's a dream. My story is a story of every immigrant. It's not a very unique story. It's our story as the immigrant story. But we need to reflect that. And as CEOs, as leaders, because we're all leaders, everyone's listening to me as a leader, we have to really make sure that we do hire in our boardrooms, everywhere we go, to the highest office in the land, should be welcoming the idea of looking like the street of our country.
Thank you. And for those who don't know, it's the Order of Canada. I'll pin that to you.
Yes.
and well earned.
Thank you.
And you were speaking there about not only business, but government awareness. And I know you have been vocal as an individual and on behalf of the organization about some of the changes that you'd like to see in the country. Can you speak a bit about the role of an organization in trying to enact change, not only within their organization, but within their city, their province, their country?
I truly believe the idea of, I don't want to upset the board of director, or if I weigh in into certain issues that it's of a public interest, I shouldn't be doing that as a CEO. I should only worry about my company and the profit of my company, and the relation with different departments of my company is limiting us. CEOs could play a big role in our country. And I know a lot of politicians, and I hear them speaking about how important for them to come closer to business people and entrepreneurs. And CEOs and entrepreneurs and owners of business should understand that. And we should kind of use it for the benefit of this country and the people that needs our support. Why do we build our platforms? Why do we become important or known? I do it because I want to use it for the good and helping the people that need our help, and use that platform to make a change, to make Canada better, and to make sure that the Canada that we came to, that it's open and welcoming to everyone, is kept that way by the politicians. I think the CEO could teach a lot of politicians a lot of lessons. We do have a lot of tools, and we know how to build companies, and we have great teams around us. But the problem, we remain silent. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset the shareholders or the board of directors. We don't want to lose the jobs sometimes, but it shouldn't be that way. A job that will make us change our principles and our values, and a job that will make us silent witness to something that does not align with our principle and values, will not make us proud in front of our employees, and will make our employees do not want to support that company anymore, or if they support it just because it's temporary until they find another job. I think CEO could play a very big role. I think leaders in the government need to change the way they see things. They need to learn more about businesses, but most importantly, they need to learn and care more about the people that they are in need in our country.
And this is why you're Canada's corporate CEO Citizen of the Year for that kind of approach. We have been going through a challenging time, as I touched on, especially in certain industries. I wanted to ask about some of the innovative pivots that you needed to make, being in a hard-hit industry, to keep your business going through the pandemic.
Well, I mean, I'll never forget that one day when we shut down all our restaurants and turned it from $8-9 million a month sales, and we're saying we're completely closed, and we have all these invoices and bills that they're going to come at us, and we didn't know how long that's going to happen. And my team came to the room and said, that's the list of the people we want to lay off. And I said to them, give me a couple days. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, why are we overreacting that way? Let's maintain our culture. Was a great test to any company in corporate culture during the pandemic. Was it only lip service, or was it real? The people that you call them, that you are a family, you have a secure job, was their job really secure? And there was a very strong, pressure on everyone to balance between doing the right thing and what can you afford to do. So, and I realized in that moment is what I learned during the war of Lebanon. And that's why immigrant experiences are important, especially in the time of crisis. So what I thought at the time, I had to be like a shark and like a goldfish at the same time. A shark that will move always forward, always forward. And a goldfish, very short-term memory. So I don't live thinking every day, I wish we'll go back to the same sale. I wish this didn't happen. I miss the way we lived before. I had to think forward, always forward. And that's what we did. We actually, instead of cutting costs, we spent so much money, and we added 3 brands. We had these big locations, a lot of square footage. We didn't know what to do with it. There's no one to sit there. We're not allowed to see people, but we're allowed to sell takeout. So we added 3 more brands. We worked day and night. We spent so much money. People used to come and say, are you crazy? You're going to run out of cash flow. But it was 2 things. was the staff that I just simply couldn't put them at home because it wasn't the right thing to do, because that wasn't the culture of Paramount, and that's not how people treated me when I came to Canada with no money. And the second is, how can we build something that after the pandemic could make Paramount grow faster and bigger? And it was a 3 brand. So we created the Crispo, a fried chicken concept halal. And we created Massimo, collaboration with Massimo, Chef Massimo Capra, in an Italian pizza with some Middle Eastern ingredient and only use halal meat in it. And we created Boxed, the touchless restaurant in downtown Toronto. And let me tell you, after 3 months from launching those brands, outside downtown Toronto, the sales exceeded 2019 sales. So the sales had exceeded the sales of the pre-pandemic with much less cost because we're not open and we don't have to really address the guest that's coming on the table. So I'm very proud to report, 1, we end up hiring more people. 2, we carried our franchisee with cutting royalty for them for 6 months. I'll never forget that call with the franchisee when I promised them we're gonna come into this pandemic together and we're gonna leave together without losing any of the franchisees. And we did. And I'm very proud of my team doing that. Look, people talk about their success. You're never gonna be successful on your own. You're only successful because you're surrounded by the right people and the right team that supports you to be there. And we all owe our success to them.
So very inspiring, the commitment that you made, and then how quickly you were able to put those changes and ideas into place and really support and have the support of the people you're working with. And that, I think, speaks to one of the attendee questions as well, which we're happy to work our way through before we end this here. So there was an attendee who had asked about your thought process when the pandemic started, with your revenue down about 90% right away, and how you managed to keep your staff on and innovate so quickly. So hopefully that attendee feels like you've answered that, but if there's anything else you wanted to add to that, Mohamad, feel free.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, don't let my over positivity fool you. I've gone to a dark spot, but I snapped out of it very fast. And I found my team did with me right away because, they were coming with the regular solution. Let's lay off staff. Let's do this. Let's do that. And for me was no, because I didn't want to lose myself on the way. It will take away the happiness, and I knew since I was a kid, you don't get anywhere without some growing pain and without some pain. And usually making a difference in life, it hurts a little bit. When you go to the gym, you work out, it hurts a little bit. So anything that you do and you put an effort to make a difference, it has to come with a little bit of pain. I was ready to take that pain. So I actually carried my staff and I paid them in full for over a month and a half until the government subsidy arrived. And when we laid them off, for the people who we laid off temporarily, we topped them up. We gave them the extra money. So we do not remove a glass of milk from anyone's table. That sentence became famous at Paramount during the pandemic. Do whatever it takes, but do not remove a glass of milk from a child's table that worked at Paramount or his parents worked at Paramount. And let me tell you, our team is much more united. We realized that during the worst time, we acted like a family, and the performance is much better.
It's a powerful visual image, yes, that makes your point certainly. We have a question from an attendee about some of the work that you've done with refugees, and off the top, they mentioned they met you at a printing shop. You visited where they were working, owned by Bashir Harb, and they were pleased to know you, as they've already tasted and enjoyed the food from Paramount. So that's a lovely intro. And they're wondering about your selection process at the Syrian refugee camps, and your commitment to hiring refugees overall, and any insights you can provide that way.
Yeah, no, for sure. It wasn't a selection of process. And thank you very much for supporting Paramount and eating at Paramount. And Bashir Harb is a great guy and he does great things for the community. I always bug all my friends here and say, come with me, let's cook for the homeless. And in the beginning, it's difficult. They're not used to leave Sunday, their family and come. But then once you do it once, it's so addictive. Like you leave there and you want to come back the second day. And that's how I live my life. And this Sunday, I'll be cooking another 500 meal and taking it to a church in downtown Toronto and to 110 seniors that can't leave their home. But look, it wasn't a selection criteria. I mean, and it's another thing that I want to say. A lot of people, when they talk about refugee, they start saying, but some of them are doctors and lawyers, like as if they have to be a doctor and lawyer for us to really treat them fairly and give them an opportunity. No, they don't. And it wasn't a selection criteria. It was my way to actually send a message to Canadians to encourage the support of families from the Syrian refugees and the sponsorship by me going and taking a chance and going at the border between Lebanon and Syria and go inside Syria to those refugee camps and reflect what I saw firsthand. And I'm glad to report that that made a lot of difference. Hundreds and hundreds of families were sponsored just because of my video from there. And look, the Syrian refugee came to Canada, and a lot of them opened shawarma places, and people say, are you crazy? You're actually leading this, you're advocating with the Prime Minister to bring more Syrian refugee, and they're gonna affect your business. But that's a small thinking. The bigger thinking is helping them as a human. The way Canadian helped me and gave me the biggest opportunity of my life. Everyone that's listening to me and not deserve the awards that I'm getting, including, you know, the Order of Canada. It's not only mine, it's all of you believing in me. And it's our duty to do the same for others, to protect the Canadian dream that we don't speak often of. And when I got the Order of Canada, I think the best thing and the biggest thing was to celebrate. Was another proof that the Canadian dream is alive and that we should protect that Canadian dream. So I was very happy to have the Syrian refugee to come and partnering with Ryerson. We paid a salary of a full executive from Paramount to teach Syrian refugee how to apply for a job and draft a resume. And above and beyond, we hired 100 Syrian refugee at Paramount. That made me better. One of them actually sold a franchise to his cousin. So look, they come here with a grit. They protect our country because they're running away from insecurity. So they'll never want to be or adding insecurity to the country where they're coming to actually look for a peaceful life. And the last part and the most important part, they ask so much and they show so much grit that even my team at Paramount wanted to work double now and harder just to keep up with these guys that want to build a better life. Look, refugee and immigrant are great people. I'm honored to forever call myself a refugee and forever call myself an immigrant. By me doing that, it shows the Canadian story and how Canadian has given me the biggest opportunity of my life and turned to who I am today.
You have such a wonderful passion. I really enjoyed. And I can see from the comments coming in, Sabush just says, I appreciate your achievements. I've seen Cecile say, I'm in awe. You're so inspiring. And there was a question about across Canada. So you're based in Toronto, and a number of these initiatives you've talked about, I've seen you bring to life in Toronto, but you have locations outside of Ontario as well.
Yes, I do. We are in Vancouver, we're in Alberta, we're in Montreal. And that said, look, I always say whatever I did in my company, I did in my philanthropy. So I did not only branch out my business in my Turkey drive every year in Easter and in Christmas, because everybody thinks because my name is Mohamad, I'm going to help only the Muslim community, which is crazy. My community is the Canadian community, and they have helped me to become who I am. So we are very proud to support people across Canada and across the world. Like people thought I was Iranian when I supported the Iranian, the people that they were impacted by the Iranian flight that fell, the Ukrainian flight, right? But no, it's our opportunity in the time of a crisis to send a message to our fellow Canadian that we are your Canadian family and we will be there for you. Not only when it's easy, when it's hard more.
Thank you. We have one last question. I know you've spoken about the power of food and building community and connections, and we have a question just out of curiosity. What's your go-to order at Paramount?
Oh, I love shish tawouk. I mean, the hummus is like water for Middle Eastern, but you know, hummus and baba ganoush is amazing. I love my fattoush plus shish tawouk on top of it. You know, I don't know. It's like it seems like 80% of what I eat is Middle Eastern. I love the food at Paramount, and not because it's my company. I mean, the success goes to my chef because I don't know how to fry an egg, and so they've done a great job. They reflect their Middle Eastern food and culture, and maybe I'll throw an advertising for my company here. So because I love the idea of breaking bread together. I always think one of the solutions of the world problem. If people will bring more often, will break more often bread together, we'll get to know each other. And we'll find out that we're so alike. And all this is not needed. And we can come together. And there is a lot of good people in the world. We only need to come together more often. And hopefully it's at Paramount, so we can advertise Paramount.
Indeed, the country is opening up more. So hopefully there's more opportunities there. Thank you so much, Mohamad, for your leadership as a business person and as a Canadian citizen who's so proud. I know, as you say, a new dawn is coming, and when this is over, people will remember how you stepped up, and you've certainly stepped up and helped so many. So thank you for joining us today, and all of our audience. We'll be sure to share you some of the comments because I can see them coming in with such gratitude and impressive information. So thank you again.
Thank you, Teresa. I love Canada. I love Canadian. And you know what? Look, they changed my life with a smile, beginning from the smile all the way to supporting the company. And forever, I'll be grateful to give back to this beautiful country.
We will break bread together soon. Yes, and for sure. And for our audience, thank you again for joining us and for your engagement. We will provide a recording in a follow-up email that will be available to you for a limited time. And this is the first in 2022 of our ongoing personal and professional development series to help you in your personal life and in your business, and hopefully see great speakers that could bring benefit to your organization. So we're happy to help anytime.
Teresa, I have to say something. Thank you for providing me with the opportunity to speak. For everyone listening, as you know, Teresa, I donate every penny, and from speaking and other activity I do to help people in need in our community. So thank you very much, because you and your team are part of those donations, because you're providing me with those opportunities to speak publicly. Thank you again.
We are looking forward to seeing you on more stages and video conferences across the country. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day.